Hey friends, welcome again to the Tennis and Bagels Podcast. We have been away for a while, but just plenty of reasons why. It was the summer. People have been traveling, just hanging out with friends. I myself have been particularly just tired and a little burnt out from just basically producing content and things like that, and just kind of like needed to take a little break. I follow tennis just a little bit like more casually for this time around, but yeah, we are still planning on doing a lot of things. So we are still excited about like the things that this podcast can do, and we have good plans and good attitude going forward to this. And another thing that I want to say is that because of this hiatus and my complete like lack of energy, I have to do a public apology to Isabel at Tennis Slut. I think that's her handle. And yeah, we recorded an episode with her. It hasn't come out like in a month. So yeah, it's yeah. Sorry, Isabel. We're going to upload your episode very, 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 very soon. So yeah. And we can't wait to have you back on the podcast again anytime soon. And today I'm here with Funch. We are going to talk about the Wimbledon tournament that happened. Well, it just ended this Sunday, right? As we're recording today is Tuesday. And yeah, as you can see, I kind of lost a little bit of practice on how to do this. I'm not as funny, not as sarcastic, not as ironic. I don't know why. It's just coming back from, I guess, vacation. And Vanch is actually coming back from vacation, right? Vanch, like you've been to Queens, you've been as in the tournament in London. You went to Paris. Of course, Paris, Roland Garros is already done at this point, but whatever, Paris to Paris. And in India, and now he's massively jet lagged. So if he says some stats and they are totally wrong, just forgive him for this once. His he hasn't slept in a while. So how you doing? How you doing, Vansh?
Doing great. You know, it's all good, Andre. I mean, we're getting it back quickly, and you know we're gonna recap Wimbledon, and we'll get our form back. But but yeah, I've been traveling. I did get a chance to go to Queens for a day. It was a really good experience. Like I was massively jet lagged as soon as I got to London, and I immediately left the airport, took the nearest train, went underground, like basically left my family, and I'm like, I'm going for a day. Okay. So I got these tickets and I'm like, I just rushed to the Queens Club and I got to see like all the second round action. I got to explore the club a little bit, met a couple of people that like followed me on Twitter and they recognized me. It was cool. Like we just hung out, we took pictures. I watched some good matches. I watched Cilic, De Minaur, Fokina, some good top 50 players, and got to watch some practices. Just hung out, ate at the restaurant, and then just spent a whole day. And then I was back with my family, and then we went to Paris. Saw the Eiffel Tower, all the touristy sites, and then had to go to India for a couple of weeks. So it was a lot of traveling, and here I am. I'm massively jet lagged. I've not slept in like over 20 hours, but this is what we do here, and we cover tennis, and tennis never stops.
Yeah.
It's always a constant in our lives, no matter how busy we are. So really excited to cover Wimbledon. So yeah, shall we get into it?
Yeah, before that, I actually had a question that I wanted to ask you. It just kind of popped in my head. Like, when you went to Queens, have you ever been to a grass tournament before? You said you've been to Wimbledon before, right?
Yeah, I actually queued in 2018 for Wimbledon. So I didn't have any tickets.
Okay.
But I got extremely lucky because the Soccer World Cup was going on at the same time.
Okay.
England was in the final. So I think Wimbledon, and it was a really hot record temperature that weekend. So I managed to stand in line for like an hour and just get in the queue. So I have seen some grass court tennis up close, but it was kind of Wimbledon's second weekend, during the finals.
Yeah.
So very different experience from second round, a different kind of grass court in Queens, extremely fast, I'd say, like much faster than Wimbledon, surprisingly. And I got to be like really close to the players, and it was a more like intimate kind of setting.
Yeah.
And the grounds were, and it still has like a lot of rich history. Queens obviously has been around for like years. It has a pretty big history, and the people who do well there tend to do pretty well at Wimbledon. But it was kind of my first experience like up close with the players, seeing grass court tennis in action. So it was quite cool to see like how they move, how they adjust, many of the players had just come back from a long clay court season and grind, so you could see like some of them were kind of struggling with their footing and getting
Yeah.
back into it.
Yeah. So like in terms of like, because there's a lot of discussion on Twitter and whatnot, and we mostly just talk about speed of the court, but like there's obviously a lot of things that like matter, like when you switch from a court to another, but like how different it is like a grass court up close, like to seeing a pro on a grass court than it is like watching a pro on a hard court, for example. And I know the Indian Wells is varying like gearing towards like this low side of like hard courts, but it's still like pretty homogeneous. I think that's how you pronounce this word. But like in terms of like speeds, like everything's a little bit more similar. So like grass courts aren't as fast as they used to be because of the type of grass, but there's still like the bounce and like how the ball just kind of like skids through the grass and like how players have to adjust and like, you know, so how much different is it from a hard court?
It is actually quite different. It's not so much the speed of the court, like you said, because surfaces have homogenized more or less in terms of court speed, and it kind of just that also kind of depends on the weather. Depends on a few other factors, but really what strikes me is how low the ball stays, and it's like the low bounce effect, right? Like, and you have to like have a really low center of gravity while you're moving on the grass, and you got to make sure like when you're changing directions, you're not like if you're sliding and you're not quite making those quick adjustment steps, then it can actually be quite dangerous. I actually saw a couple of players like just slip as they were recovering back to the middle, just kind of lose their footing a little bit. So you have to be like, you got to have really like quick feet and faster reactions, and you have to stay extremely low while moving, and because the ball just like skids, so you have to, I feel like if you have good penetration and like flat ground strokes, and you can really hit through the court, whether it be with your serve or like with angles and stuff like that, that could be extremely effective. And of course, I saw many players hitting a lot of slices, coming to the net, working on their transition game, really fine tuning those aspects of grass that maybe on clay they wouldn't need as much, because you can more, outlast your opponent, or you can overpower them from the baseline. Whereas here it's a lot more, I guess you have to be a lot more strategic how you construct the points, because on average the rally length is a little bit less, but also it's you still have long lengthy baseline rallies, but you got to sort of change the tempo of it, and you got to rely on your serve a bit more. And so it was interesting to see players having to adjust. So it's very, and I'd say it's closer to a hard court than it is a clay court, just in terms of sheer speed and kind of the way you have to play. It's more similar to an indoor court actually, where you get like this like low bouncing effect. So that was that was cool to see.
Yeah, sure. Nice. And now on to Wimbledon. I think this is just like an interesting question, just because we always question a little bit like the importance like of grass court, and like should there be more, should there be no more grass courts and things like that. So I just thought it was an interesting idea, because like I've never been near to like an actual grass court, so I have no idea. Just kind of seeing from TV, it really is different from seeing it live. So yeah.
Every time I think of the grass, by the way, I think of like classical like lawn tennis, like for me, like Wimbledon is such a special tournament. Just because like you see how much it really means to the players. For example, like this year, there were no ranking points, and but still, you felt like, okay, the tours, taking away ranking points, like them kind of showing their power. Being like, okay, Wimbledon, if you're going to unilaterally take a decision, or you're going to take a decision that affects our players, we're going to show our power, and we're going to strip ranking points. And we'll see, like, there was talks about like if players are going to skip the grass court season, and they're going to do that. But reality, apart from the players that were banned, I think everyone really wanted to play Wimbledon this year, just because, the prestige of the tournament, there's still prize money, there's still a lot at stake. So it just kind of reaffirmed in my mind that, this part of the season is kind of really special, even though it's niche and it's a novelty kind of surface nowadays, just because you only play on it for what, like 4 or 5 weeks, 5 weeks max. At least now you have an extra week in between Roland Garros and Wimbledon, so you at least have 3 weeks, and then you have the 2-week Wimbledon. But I do wish we saw a little bit more of it, because it's it's a nice change up to have. Especially, I think with Godenzi's plan moving forward, I think we're gonna really try to push for a Masters 1000 finally on grass. So I think that'll make it really interesting, and you'll see players prioritize it even more. So
Yeah, that'd be cool. And yeah, like definitely like when you saw Wimbledon and like the players who were playing on it, like saw Jabeur, like Djokovic, Nadal decided to play. And obviously like it definitely shows that like of course like for them in terms of like even money, I don't necessarily think like a player like Nadal or Djokovic are necessarily like going after this all that much and nowadays like in their careers. Like they're no, it's always good money, but like still like they make money on other things. And
For
ranking
them, it's
points is
for
like
them
yeah.
for a player like Nadal, it's more about the slam race and
Yeah, it's all about like the
and
competition. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the hunger to compete and a lot of
Mm,
other factors. But if you're a
yeah.
player sort of in that 75 to
Yeah.
150, really want to, and you're qualified,
Yeah.
your goal would be to qualify and then collect the first round prize money or
Yeah.
second round prize money because it's a lot. It can sustain you for the whole year,
Yeah, exactly.
more than winning challengers can, and even some
Absolutely. No,
majors.
yeah. Winning challengers is a way to boost your morale, I would say. Like it's really good like when a player like starts getting on a streak on challenges because they start thinking I can definitely win like bigger now. So but in terms of like actual like long term money wise financial like scheduling, definitely the Grand Slams are like very important. And Wimbledon didn't cease to be a Grand Slam without even with all the stuff that happened this year.
Yeah.
Um, it is sad, I will say, that Russians were not able to play, but I think that a lot of the field was still pretty strong, and players really did
Yeah.
come out to win it. So even Kyrgios, like for crying out loud, like did like him to the final. And speaking of that final, like what do you think of it? Like I could see Djokovic losing to Kyrgios. I definitely saw that could be a possibility, but I didn't really think that was going to happen. But I thought that Kyrgios had a smaller chance. It's not like I was saying like, oh, it's definitely not going to happen. But like I definitely thought that Djokovic needs to actually play his game and not be intimidated. Well, not that Djokovic would ever be that intimidated by Kyrgios, but like he can't really let his guard down, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously throughout this tournament, and he did this a lot at the U.S. Open last year. He's kind of made it a thing now to drop the opening set and then come back and just, you know, lock in and go in lockdown mode and just limit his unforced errors and just play extremely solid and play Djokovic vintage type tennis. And against Nick, like it was very interesting because coming into the match, all the talk was like, how is he going to handle his first Grand Slam final? Obviously he was 2-0 against Djokovic, but those matches, needed a lot of context. They were over
Yeah.
5.5 years ago. Djokovic was struggling with his elbow at the time. He had just lost to Istomin at the Australian Open. And then he went on and had a, not a great season by his standards. And then he had to retire from Wimbledon with an elbow problem. And then he missed the rest of the year. So it was not vintage Djokovic by any means, but you could certainly see that Kyrgios has a lot of tools that can trouble Djokovic, especially on his serve.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't broken in any of those matches in 2017, and obviously he can. He's extremely talented. He has soft hands. He has good firepower from the baseline. He can win a lot of cheap points on his serve. He can even hang with Djokovic a little bit backhand to backhand, which is something that I thought might be tough for Djokovic to handle in early stages, and I proved to be correct on that because actually Kyrgios' backhand is extremely flat and low,
Yeah.
and it really skids on the grass. So Djokovic is forced to do a little bit more with it, like create his own pace with it, or maybe go to his backhand slice, which by the way he did really well in the final.
Yeah.
It just took him a while to figure it out, and he had a great day on the drop shots as well. He had such good feel on that shot.
Yeah.
But I was quite impressed with the way actually Kyrgios was hanging with Djokovic in the baseline rallies, and he was, actually moving quite well on the court, and even some of the lengthier rallies he was. And then obviously he has the serve, so he served like 7 or 8 aces in the first set. He made Djokovic actually go big on a second serve, and he double faulted, and so Nick really I think came out strong, and he played quite a tactically good first set. Just looking at the tennis, and he was quite focused, and none of the antics and the stuff that we saw before. But
Mm-hmm.
then you could really see that it doesn't matter if you play like a god for 30 minutes because it's just not enough. At some point, your level is going to drop. You're
Yeah.
going to start to feel the pressure. So I really felt like Novak, he started reading the Kyrgios serve much, much better early stages of the second set, started getting a lot more depth on his returns, started forcing Kyrgios to press and go for lines. And implode a little bit, and he started, chattering away with his box, and he started losing his focus a bit. The key game I thought was in the second set. Once Djokovic broke for and held for 4-1, he then served for the set at 5-3, and he was down left 40.
Yeah.
And one thing that I thought tactically he did really well was he recognized, obviously, that Kyrgios's backhand return is a lot stronger than his forehand return. So if you jam him, or you go body, or you make him hit forehand returns that he's not very comfortable with, either stretched out wide or just even right in a strike zone, to be honest, he would miss a lot of them. Yeah. So like Djokovic was able to get back from left 40, just boom, boom, two first serves right to the Kyrgios forehand, and he missed both of them. And then they had this long rally, and Kyrgios got tight, and he missed a shot in the net, and then it was deuce, and then he just kind of ran away with the game. He hit a superb drop shot in that game, which really helped because Kyrgios was trying to go backhand to backhand and get that pattern that he really likes.
And plus the drop shot like on Kyrgios is very effective because Kyrgios isn't extremely fast. Like
he's not. Like he has great hands, and he can be athletic, and he has good speed, but he's not the most physically.
A lot of the times he wasn't even trying to reach the drop shot because he just knew he was not going to get it. So it's good for Djokovic because he already is like he can play drop shots that are so good against like players like Nadal or Murray who are very, very fast. So like he can play like drop shots that are like half as good and still win the point against the Kyrgios. So
I felt like he executed it really well though, and his touch was very good. He got them really close to the net. He got some backspin on them. He was really because actually Kyrgios was about to get there, but then it just skid away from him, and he just couldn't find the angle, and it was just even Kyrgios was like, that's just too good. And and then I think they had another kind of lengthy rally, and then Djokovic was really starting to get the tempo from the baseline going, and he was anytime I felt like he was behind the baseline, he was doing a lot more damage than Nick was. Nick did not want to be behind the baseline defending, whereas I felt like Djokovic could still generate quite a bit, especially on his backhand and even his forehand inside in and inside out. He was really able to pin Nick back and win those points. And I just felt like he was the calmer, more composed player throughout. He's been in this situation so many times. This was his 32nd major final. And I have to say there was a lot at stake for Djokovic here because obviously he's not going to get vaccinated. And as it stands right now, he's not going to be able to play the US Open. Australian Open is also in question, and he missed the Australian Open already this year with everything that happened. So for him winning, and Nadal is 2 ahead in the slam race. So for him winning Wimbledon was extremely key, and there was a lot of pressure on him right from the get-go, because also the Nadal withdrawal I don't think helped him because now everyone's like more expecting him to win. And
I thought about that too. I was like, if Nadal like withdrawing, there's two factor on this. Like one, like Djokovic is going to feel the pressure immediately on the semifinal match to win that one, to get to the final. So he's like, he could run the risk of like thinking too far ahead. And the second thing was like Kyrgios definitely benefits from not playing Nadal. For one, because he doesn't play Nadal, and for two, because he gets a little bit more rest. And Kyrgios needed it because it's like he's not the fittest player on tour. Like he unfortunately he could sort of like break down a little bit more, but like having that extra day, I think allowed him to compete the way that he did in the final.
It was interesting actually because someone brought that up to him after the match in the press conference, and he said, on the one hand, obviously it was good for him because physically, he's not the most durable, and who knows what would have happened if he had a long tussle with Nadal, and and then you'd have to come back the next day. But then on the other hand, he said like, I kept thinking about it so much, so like I didn't sleep well at night, and I just kept thinking and overthinking, and you could see like in the in the big moments, he tends to always have like an outlet to release his pressure, because every time he's feeling the pressure, he unfortunately it creates like sort of an environment that's not very pleasant to watch. So he'll go after umpires or linesmen and for doing their job, and he'll go about it in a sort of really over the top way, and it would cost him, it would lose him a lot of focus. And he did do some of that here, but I thought a lot of it was directed at his box. And he was telling them, please get up after every point, and and it was like as if they weren't already doing that, because they were basically getting up after every single point and applauding him, and it was like, it's a 40, do something. And say something, and it was clearly just a way to direct the pressure. It was just needed an outlet.
And he did get fined, right? Like in this tournament, I think. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, he tends to get fined with audible obscenities and a lot of other worse things. But actually, for his standards, I thought actually he controlled himself just enough to where he was able to reel it back in. And actually, in the third set, if we move along, he saved 2 break points in the first game. Really good shot making. Not much Djokovic could do there. But then he was up 4. It was 4-all 40 love. And this is the most important game of the match right now, because
third set, right?
4-all 40 love, third set. Kyrgios serving. It looks like it's going to be a really easy hold, and Djokovic is going to be the one serving to stay in the set. Instead, he gets a little bit lackluster with his shot selection. Hits a decent approach, but then doesn't do enough with a volley. It's a little bit kind of semi-casual. He gives Djokovic the angle. Djokovic pounces, plays a great shot, and then then I think Kyrgios hits another approach, Djokovic makes him hit a really tough volley, and then Djokovic gets a lot of depth on the next return, and the next thing you know, it's a deuce within 2 or 3 minutes. And this is where you see the genius of Djokovic, because he manages to play every single point with such clarity and such focus, to where each point is the same, and he's not going to let you out of a 40 love hold.
Yeah.
It was a bit Nadal-like, actually, because sometimes Djokovic can sort of go through these phases where he peaks at certain moments, and then he'll sort of strategically let a certain game go, but he didn't do that here. He knew he had to be right on it, and he got back in the game really quickly. And then then I think Nick felt the pressure, so then he double faulted a deuce, and then he just went for a really bad shot, just off a backhand, like a neutral ball. It was short. He could have come in on it. He could have done so much on it, but he just. He got a bit impatient, and he got frustrated, and he just slapped it backhand in the net. And he had a good shot of doing something in that point, but then Djokovic breaks, and then he holds, and that's the set. And it's such small margins, but you see it in that moment. What separates both of them, because it was actually very little.
Yeah.
But then
it's interesting because that I have a twofold comment here. One, it's really cool that Kyrgios was able to hold himself together, because we know that Kyrgios has good hands. He Kyrgios that is able to play tennis and not rely on just make a show with his
or his circus
controversy. His circus with antics that aren't his antics aren't Monfils which is a different circus. It was a good circus. Kyrgios is an edgy circus, which is it's cool sometimes. He makes some good content for Instagram and whatnot, but long term, it's not really the most sustainable. It's not really exactly a good behavior in general.
No, it's not. And actually, you really start to feel bad for the umpires and
exactly.
Because he'll start going after them for their age and stuff you're get them out of here. He's 90. What is he doing? And it's he has no.
It's borderline disrespectful. That's the thing. It's it could be but
that's where I just feel it starts to get a little bit bad. But
and the other thing is how sad it is that at the moment that Kyrgios reaches a Grand Slam final, a moment in which it could be people actually believing that he could be something, and could oh, now he's gonna get himself together. Now he's flung into a different controversy off the court and on a different court, and it's never been easy with Kyrgios, has it?
No, it's not. And obviously, I think it's just a mere coincidence also that it happened in this point, because I mean, when you file charges and you're his ex-girlfriend, you don't know when, you don't know the timing or when it's going to be actually be released, and when the court date is just going to be. And we just found out just before his quarterfinal match, I think, that he's going to be summoned to court for August 2nd, because his ex-girlfriend, Chiara Pissarra, I think, is her name. There was this whole thing that, on Instagram, there were all these posts of her basically accusing Nick of emotional and physical and verbal abuse. and like there were all these text messages, and there was pictures of him like cheating, and I think there was an incident in Adelaide where the police were called, and they were forced to separate the two because it got really bad. And then yeah, he was in, they were both kind of in a dark place, and it seemed like a very toxic relationship, but it
Yeah.
seemed like there was some credible enough evidence for her to file charges, and it's another case now in the ATP of domestic abuse, and it just seems like it's a growing trend. And unfortunately, based on Nick's track record the past 8 years, and the violent behavior that he's shown on the court, and just you can see some of the things that he does towards his opponents and the linesmen and all these other things that we know about him. It's just not a great feeling. Like, just going in, you can see why a lot of people would not want to have anything to do with him, even though his tennis, when it's on and when he's playing really well, it can be electric and exciting to watch, but it can also turn a lot of people away. So I think that's the polarizing effect that Nick has. But but I guess you just have to be able to separate that from the tennis at hand, and that's extremely difficult for a lot of fans to do, including myself at times.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why it can be uncomfortable actually covering some of these characters on the ATP because of this reason. And I totally would understand if like someone didn't want to watch the men's final, for example, for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And even Djokovic himself has some like his issues with the vaccines, as you pointed out. So like, yeah, it's.
And then of course, there's the whole bromance stuff like before the match and on Instagram stories. And obviously these two have a history with, Nick going after Novak for many years of like just going after him like constantly, and Novak like not having anything to do with it. And then obviously there was Nick being the contrarian that he is, he supported Novak during the whole vaccination saga and during that whole incident. And Novak, obviously, he felt like, okay, I can respect this guy more now, which, again, I'm like, if that guy had said like half, even 1/3 of the things he said to you, I wouldn't forgive him. But that's just me, but maybe it was just like a tactic as well to like get in his head and then just like win based on tennis alone. And I feel like Novak did that. And then, after the match, it was a lot, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, tennis is good.
Yeah.
What about Nadal? Like, I feel like Nadal has well, first of all, super bad luck to
just going back to the match again.
Yeah, go on.
As well. In the fourth set, Nick got it back together, and they were both serving extremely well.
Yeah.
So it became a close context just on the basis of both of them serving extremely well. Djokovic barely lost any points before the tiebreak, and he's become such a good spot server now, to where it's almost Federer-esque the way he can find the corners with the same ball toss, and it's not a very fast serve. It's maybe around 105 to 115, but he's able to get quick points, and with the same toss, and you just can't read it. And that's something both the players had. So because of that, it was always going to come down to like end of sets and fine margins. And then there was one point again at 5-6, 30 all, Djokovic serving. And what does he do? He goes again to the Kyrgios forehand, and Kyrgios misses the return wide and shanks it. And then Djokovic gets out of that game, and then he wins 2 points, I think, on Nick's serve in the tiebreak. And then the tiebreak was honestly very comfortable. It was just Djokovic going in knockdown mode and just refusing to miss. Just made one unforced error in total in the tiebreak, like we've seen him do so many times.
Yeah,
he was able to close Nick out comfortably. But I thought it was a good, like, respectable, match. Nick certainly showed that he belonged there. So that's just based on his tennis alone, he hit 30 aces. He made Novak uncomfortable for about a set and a half, and I guess it was more competitive than the Berrettini final, for example, last year, where if you felt like you got it to Berrettini's backhand, you were more or less safe if you're Djokovic. But here, I feel like Djokovic was pushed a little bit more. But nonetheless, I never really felt like after the second set, the match was ever really in doubt.
Yeah,
I still felt like Djokovic was going to come through, and he did. And, he played very well in the last 3 sets.
Yeah, and I know I was mentioning Nadal before, but I actually want to switch around. Like, let's go to the next gen, or like the players who are younger and up and coming. I was actually really happy to see Yannick Sinner and Taylor Fritz doing as well as they did. And also Brendan Nakashima, who took Nick to 5 sets, and he beat Shapovalov like pretty comfortably. He was playing like a veteran a lot of the time. Like he didn't really seem to leave a lot of his nerves like get to him. You could see like against like Nick at the end of the match. I think the 5th set was a little bit more straightforward. I feel like Nakashima kind of felt a little bit more pressure.
Yeah,
but it's kind of like really encouraging signs. Yannick Sinner, I think it was 2 sets to love up right on Djokovic.
Yeah, for me, Sinner impressed me the most.
Yeah.
Because coming into this tournament, he had not won a match on grass.
Yeah.
And that was the big story coming in. And then he had that first round match. He had played against Stan Wawrinka. So that was an exciting first round match. It was 4 sets. Sinner comes through there. And then he beats Ymer in 4 sets. And then he sets up the match against Isner, which that match also impressed me a lot because it was straight sets, just 2 sets that Sinner won with a break. He handled the Sinner serve extremely well. He handled the Isner serve extremely well, which is not easy. He's a great returner, Sinner, and he moves extremely well. And he's one of the few players who can slide on grass. So he has really good balance and footwork, and he's able to change directions very quickly. And he has that sort of Djokovician like offensive defense where he can like hit backhand open stance passing shots,
which by the way was the reason why Djokovic couldn't really get into the match earlier, because Sinner was just pretty much peaking. He was playing so well.
Yeah, because Sinner, it was almost like Djokovic was playing a version of himself, but he wasn't at his best, and Sinner took advantage, and it was like it was really impressive. And then obviously you have the Alcaraz match, where I thought that was, for me, that was the best match of Sinner's career so far. Like the way he played in that match, the way he returned Alcaraz's serve, the way he beat Alcaraz backhand to backhand, the way he was able to generate off of Alcaraz's slice, the way he was coming in. And he's not very comfortable coming in. That's one part of his game that he can improve, the net game, the volleys, maybe just a little bit more variety and a little bit more, it's sort of a little bit more of a one-way game right now, but he still has, and obviously he can get better on the miles per hour on the serve, but he was really hitting his spots this tournament. So I think that really helped him, because he was finding the corners, or he was hitting the T serve really well. He didn't get broken at all against Carlos Alcaraz, which is not easy to do.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah,
he never lost a serve, and he saved all 7 break points that he faced. And then Alcaraz mounted this insane comeback in the 3rd set tiebreak, and that was one of the best parts of the tournament. Actually, that 3rd set tiebreak between Alcaraz and Sinner, it was really high quality, and Alcaraz showed his fight, and he won that 3rd set. And then, but Sinner went right back to work, and he was just a better player the whole time.
Yeah.
So I was very impressed.
Yeah. And there's a comment that Owen made on Twitter. Like, Owen isn't here, but we're gonna summon him, his insight. So he mentioned that Alcaraz has been not really playing all of his best tennis in Grand Slams.
That is a pattern lately.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely. Like, I wasn't really expecting Alcaraz to be amazing at Wimbledon for a bunch of reasons. Like, it's obvious that grass courts are a bit harder to adapt to. It's in all, it's pretty good signs that like he actually did so well this year in terms of like playing so well against Sinner, like never giving up. Like he did well mentally and emotionally. I think he proved that his mentality to win is very big, and he can find a way. So I guess we can keep saying the same thing. Watch out for Alcaraz in the future. Maybe cast a bit of doubt like on whether he can actually win a Grand Slam this year. I think you said that he was not going to win a Grand Slam this year, right? You said like by next year, but not this year, right?
Yeah, I just felt like this year, like in best of 5 sets, I mean, we had the match against Berrettini where he didn't play very well for the first 2 sets. And then we had the match against Zverev where he didn't play well in the first 2 sets at the French Open. And so it's just like having to come back from that every single time is just kind of difficult. And he still has like a few things missing, like physically right now. Like, I think he can get more out of his serve. He's not the best spot server yet.
Yeah.
And then obviously I think he came into this tournament actually with some doubt because he pulled out of Queens with an elbow injury.
Yeah, that's true.
He lost both of his matches in the exhibition, which doesn't really mean much, but it was kind of like Wimbledon was a bit sort of touch and go for him with the elbow. And the long season that he's had so far. And then plus he had only played 2 matches in his life on grass before this. I mean, I guess Sinner as well, this was only his 2nd Wimbledon, but he had played a warm-up before this. He had played some challengers, and he played qualies before, and so you kind of felt like Sinner was better adapted, and he was moving
readier
better.
for it.
Yeah, than Alcaraz, who's still only 19, and this is only his like 7th main draw total in a major.
Yeah.
So I felt like it's still a tad bit raw for him right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he made a really deep run at the US Open.
Yeah.
Particularly also with Djokovic most likely not playing, and we don't know about Nadal's health.
Yeah.
So really it comes down to him and Medvedev and just a few other contenders, and he's right in there.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
And then he obviously hard courts he's done extremely well on. He won Miami this year, so I feel like it could happen for him this year, but more likely next year for him. More likely in the next year or two, I think you will see him win a major.
Yeah. I have a feeling that he's going to have another crushing defeat in a major, like a big semifinal that he loses, or even a final. I think he might do like a Medvedev in that sense, or Dominic Thiem, like probably win a Grand Slam earlier than those two.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but at a much younger age, so he'll have he'll have already experienced those tough losses before, and he'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
Like it's actually that's going to be kind of another factor in sort of this Grand Slam race is just how quickly Sinner and Alcaraz improve.
Yeah,
because eventually they're going to get the better of these old guys.
Yeah,
just by virtue of time and by because you feel like the serve is going to get better.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything is going to get better in his game, and you already saw the improvement that he made from this off season to the start of this year. So I feel like
totally.
I feel like I'm not too worried about Alcaraz, and he also still has that ability to just find something extra special when he's down.
Yeah,
which is something that the all-time greats have. So I see that in him as well. Like for example, in the first round, he was down 2-1, and he was down 2-love in the fourth set tiebreak against Struff, who's quite an experienced player and very dangerous first-round opponent. But then he just found some magic, like in the tiebreak, and he just pulled off this like stunning flick, backhand running passing shot, and then he got the crowd involved, and then he won.
Yeah.
He won some free points on his serve, and then he hit some gorgeous passing shots. So he has that ability to find his best tennis in those moments when he's down, and may not always be enough to win the match. Like against Sinner, it wasn't enough, but that extra gear is still there. So I feel like he can tap into that. Which is still quite good. I'd say to have that at this age.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like it's looking good in terms of like those guys are definitely like making good progress. Like obviously super hard to go up against. Like very bad luck from Fritz that he himself was slightly injured as well against Nadal, so he couldn't really take that much advantage of like Nadal's injury.
Yeah, at times his leg he seemed a little bit slower to me, especially in the fifth set. But I think what I learned about both Sinner and Fritz is that they're really good ball strikers, and they can hang with Nadal and Djokovic from the back.
Oh yeah,
like if it's just like a cross court like exchange, or if it's just forehand to forehand, or I guess the Nadal forehand to Fritz's backhand cross court, like he can handle that really well, and he can go toe to toe with these guys. It's just those extra tools that these guys have. Like I'm talking about the Nadal slice, his net game,
it's just like the tactics, like the smallest little things that you can switch around. So so you can try things out, like see if you can like throw off the rhythm, or like just make the opponent work in a different way that either they're not used to or they don't like to.
Like for example, Fritz is still a little bit uncomfortable handling the slice. I think he prefers the ball. Like if you think about Indian Wells, like that's where he's had his best results, and that's where like the ball just bounces up right in the strike zone, and he's able to just tee off on it and just crush the ball and hit winners. But on grass, he has to get down a little bit more low, like play those slices, like come to the net. He's still not comfortable in net. He'd rather just retreat back or just win from the baseline, and so he got exposed there.
And he'd rather get a good forehand.
Yeah, wasn't quite able to take advantage, even though Nadal was serving at maybe 95-100 miles per hour. His serve speeds were way down.
Yeah.
So that's where you could tell the abdominal, I feel like, was really bothering him was on the serve, because actually from the back of the court he played all right. Like he's still hitting commanding forehands. He was still, fighting like Nadal always does. But at some point I did also feel like, how we always like sort of praise the fighting spirit of Nadal and these guys, and like how they never give up and how they finish matches and they don't retire.
Yeah.
I did kind of feel that in that moment, like, is he overdoing it? Because at one point, Nadal's dad and his sister were like telling him to stop, and that was in the second set.
Mm-hmm.
And when things were like not looking good at all for him, but he still decided to continue, and like credit to him because he found a way and he won the match and he did what he had to do. And I saw some people saying on Twitter, oh, he should have retired, midway through the match. And then you had other people saying like, oh, he's faking this injury, how is he running like this and how is he doing this, when it's really hard to diagnose that in the middle of the match and you're just trying to get through it somehow and then evaluate after the match is over. And I think I guess good for him that he like made that decision to pull out, because that couldn't have been easy. He's obviously going for the
Grand Slam. Yeah, I guess in a sense, like it's all going through a mind of a person like this, right? Like you're in the middle of the match, you suffer an injury, you feel like you can still go, like you're obviously running a bit on adrenaline and this like
and painkillers
exactly. So it's like if you're Nadal at that moment, you're like, I'm in the quarterfinals. Taylor Fritz is a player I can beat, and then you have Nick Kyrgios who I can beat, and then we have Djokovic who maybe if I'm at my best, I could maybe have a shot at this. Like like it's.
Yeah.
And you do this, and he's probably like not. Nadal doesn't have like another 5 years in himself, like for sure. Like to a best. So, it's definitely understandable that he made that decision. The one thing that it's never that commendable is that like for normal people like us, so like it's if you feel like your body is actually like hurting and you don't need to push it, don't push it. Like. Listen to your body, commoners. Like if you're not Rafael Nadal, like on a tennis court, like it's definitely like that gray area in which you're like, you have to be really careful with those things. But life isn't an anime in which you can just kind of push through like a broken arm and like still like throw a punch. This is not exactly like how life works. But
at the end of the day, your health is more important than winning. Winning a match at the sake of like destroying your body and never being able to play again. Because, like,
which leads us to go on.
For Nadal overall, though, I feel like he got the most out of this tournament because he
for sure
obviously he struggled in the early rounds, which was expected because he hadn't played on grass in 3 years, and he generally does struggle in the first week of Wimbledon usually. And then he somehow got through the Fritz match, and then he finds out he has a 7mm abdominal tear. So now. So what looked like 3 weeks ago that he may not even play Wimbledon, and then he had to get the foot radio frequency ablation. At least it looked like that wasn't really an issue for him, and he could move okay, and the pain was numbed and all of that in the foot. And then sort of midway through the tournament, he has to deal with this. At the same time, it still feels a little bit different to me than Novak last year, because obviously Novak last year was in this position, but like when he won the French Open, he's like, I can actually do this. Like I can actually win. But I didn't feel like that about Nadal because obviously, Nadal's not the favorite at Wimbledon. Djokovic is.
Yeah.
So it still felt, you still feel like, he'll rest and maybe 5-6 weeks, and then he'll try and he has a good shot at the US Open, which he's won 4 times. And so,
I think it's like for Nadal, it feels like more of a match by match basis. It's like, for Djokovic, you definitely could see like, oh, he could do this like in November, he could like win this tournament, like something like that. You see a bit further ahead because Djokovic doesn't have the health issues that Nadal has. So like for Nadal, it's like, is he going to hold like for 5 sets in this match? Is he going to be able to play the next match? Like what's going to happen today? What's going to happen tomorrow? So like it's every tournament is like its whole saga in itself.
Yeah, and then you had those. Obviously, you had people, some well-respected people. I was quite surprised the number of people that thought Fritz should have played the semifinal, and they sort of were like, well, we have lucky losers in qualifying, and I'm like, I was thinking to myself, but that's qualifying, and that's to get one spot in the main draw, and that's for players ranked over 104 in the world, who are like just vying for one place to compete. But if you lose a quarterfinal and then you're back playing a semifinal, that just doesn't feel right at all. And then you had Fritz himself weighing in on the issue and being like, if I didn't beat Nadal, I didn't beat him, and I had my chances, I don't deserve to play. So I think he sort of ended it right there himself, which was.
I think that's not actually his account. I hear like apparently it was like a fake.
Oh, it was. I mean, I thought it was him because I saw it on his Instagram, and then.
It might have been just on Instagram then. I think people just like mistaken it for Twitter.
Sort of screenshotted it and then they put it on Twitter, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, because like, people were tagging him and they were like, you should be playing the semifinal and,
Yeah. I feel like it's
thing.
I will always remember as a kid, and that's like from obviously like a different type of competitor as like me of like an amateur. Like I wish I could have become a pro, but I didn't. But like to a professional. But like, as a kid, when I had a judo tournament and I lost my match, my fight, I guess is how you'd say it. But like and I was like 6 and they gave me a medal. And I never felt so humiliated in my life because it's like I can only imagine like Fritz like being like at Wimbledon is like sure, but like imagine like at the end of this tournament you lift that trophy and you're like, but I lost in the middle of it. Like I don't, it would never have felt right. Like I don't think it would.
No.
As a competitor, I feel like I would be crying. Like in the sense, like
Like I don't believe in
yeah,
asterisks ever, but if that actually happened, I'd make that an asterisk. Like
absolutely. That would be
that
a
doesn't
little
sit right with
ridiculous.
me at all.
Yeah,
Right. I mean, this only works in like the Olympics when you have like the
yeah,
bronze medal match or like the
yeah,
ATP final, I
exactly.
guess, which is like round robin,
Yeah.
which is like special case. But
Yeah, but like a bronze medal is just a different type of thing, right? You don't
yeah,
win the tournament, you win third place. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So there was all of that, which turned into this whole silly debate. But nonetheless, it was we didn't have the Kyrgios Nadal semifinal.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, and then obviously then you had Sinner going up 2 sets to love on Djokovic, and really Djokovic actually led 4-1 in the first set, and then he played a really bad game and kind of allowed Sinner to get back into it, and then Sinner took that momentum that he got from the first set and just played spectacular.
yeah,
Like he was pushing Djokovic around the court, he was getting free points on his serve, which is really hard for him to do, but he
yeah.
managed to do it with a great spot serving, and you felt like Djokovic was sort of conserving his energy, kind of buying his time,
Hmm.
uh, you know, took a bit of a break after the second set and then just started serving so much better. And just, I think in the last 3 sets, he won 45 out of 49 first serve points. That is insane
Yeah,
in 3 sets of tennis,
yeah,
to where it was never close after the first 2 sets. And you
yeah.
never felt like Sinner had a chance.
It almost feels like it was very similar to the Tsitsipas match at Roland
The
Garros last
Tsitsipas
year.
match
Yeah,
and the Musetti match, it was identical to those 2 matches.
yeah.
It was just,
The difference about the Musetti match is that Musetti ended up being like injured, so like
yeah,
it
and he
gets a
and he
little bit of a
retired.
caveat. Yeah,
Yeah, the Tsitsipas match is a great comparison. Though.
yeah.
Like that's what it reminded me of.
The Tsitsipas match, that was the one, like not to come back to like 2021, but like the one thing is like Tsitsipas ended up mounting like a pretty decent almost comeback at the very very end of the match. Like
Yeah, he managed to get it to deuce in the last game and kept
yeah,
kept it to just one break. So it was respectable. Like it
yeah,
was, you felt like maybe if Djokovic didn't play his best, he could have gone
yeah,
to 5-all.
yeah,
Then you never know.
yeah. And then we have on the other side of the tournament, we have um the women's champion Elena Rybakina, who's from Kazakhstan and not Russia.
Yeah, by the way, just before we
Yeah.
go to the men's, I do want to give a shout out to Cam Nori because he
Oh
went
yeah.
past the he
Actually,
went, he
absolutely.
went
Let's go.
he went past the third round for the first time in a major, and he's not had the best luck when it comes to draws. Like he's always drawn Nadal or Federer, or he drew Alcaraz at the U.S. Open last year. That's a bad draw in the first round. And then I think he lost to Federer at Wimbledon, and then he lost to Nadal at the Australian Open and Roland Garros, and those were all third round matches.
Hmm.
And this year he lost to Khachanov in the third round. I guess somewhat more winnable, but nonetheless, for him to get past this barrier and get to the third round and make a semifinal out of it, it's a pretty big achievement for
Yeah.
him.
And he
And
plays super well against
is,
Djokovic too.
yeah, he did, and he bothered Djokovic for a set and rattled him a little bit. Kept the ball extremely low, and Djokovic just couldn't get quite a good read on it because obviously his backhand stays so low and it's barely got a backswing and it's extremely flat. And then his forehand is more conventional, loopy clay court type forehand. So it's like such a big discrepancy between the two ground strokes. And obviously he can run forever. He makes a lot of balls back. He has the whites. He has improved his serve quite a bit, and he just competes really, really hard. Like it's tough to put him away.
Yeah.
And he's able to, just make matches a dogfight, and then he's able to win. Like his quarterfinal against David Goffin, he won 75 in the fifth, and it was just sheer will. He wasn't even playing his best tennis most of the time, but he just found a way, and he kept Goffin guessing, and he dragged the match out, and he got a lot of unforced errors, and he was serving really well in big moments, and just really good to see from him because he had the home crowd behind him, and It just felt like a result like this was due, like it was coming.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, well done to Cam Norrie, and he really like it sucks for him that there's no ranking points because right now he'd be number 8 in the world.
Yeah, you'd have been good for him.
Yeah. So, but that's how it is for everyone. It's like they never played this tournament, which is how it is.
Yeah, it's crazy because it enters the history books, but it doesn't enter the week to week ATP book. So yeah, it's a little bit of a shame that they decided to forgo the ranking points.
Good tournament for David Goffin also. He beat Tiafoe and he managed to it's good to see him back playing well because he's had some of the worst injury luck. Ever possible. Like, he was in his prime, and then I remember he was playing against Dimitrov in 2018, and then he just the ball just hit his eye, and then he was gone for a year.
Yeah.
And then he tripped over the tarp on the back of the court at the French Open that year, and then he just all of his momentum. Every time he's played well, all of his momentum is just gone by a crazy freak injury that he can never control.
Yeah,
and then
he has
to sort of restart his momentum all over again. It was a great effort for him to get to the quarters.
Yeah,
really good match against Tiafoe in the 4th round, and could have gone either way against Norrie. Just few points decided it. And then also Christian Garin making the quarters, I guess, is great for him. I didn't expect him to beat Alex de Minaur. That was a great win from 2 sets.
For sure.
Yeah, and then Brandon Nakashima, like you mentioned, him beating Denis Shapovalov. I think that's the best win of his career for sure in a major.
Yeah.
To beat Shapovalov in 4 sets, it was quite a tight 4th set tiebreak as well, and he held it together. And his backhand was doing some serious damage in that match. So it was a tough draw for Shapovalov. He had never faced Nakashima before, and it was going to be a difficult matchup.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with his previous history this year wasn't really good coming into Wimbledon.
He had no confidence coming in.
Yeah.
But, Shapovalov can turn it around like he's done in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
But and then the other thing I wanted to ask you about is there were 2 other players that I really expected to go deep. They were doing really well in grass court tournaments, and they, Hurkacz, for example, he'd won Halle, and he just had a really tough 1st round against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. I remember watching that match and being like, this is a really tough 1st round, on paper, and everyone was expecting Hurkacz to win, and it went to this. They had this crazy match with Fokina going up 2 sets to love, and then he served for the 3rd set, and he had 3 match points on his serve. And then, Hurkacz breaks him, and then they have this rain delay, and then it gets to a 5th set, and then twice Hurkacz is up in the 5th set, and then he's up 7-4 in the super tie break as well at 6-all because they have the 10-point tie break. And then Fokina ends up winning, and it's just Hurkacz was another one we were all expecting to go deep. Then you have the withdrawals of Berrettini and Cilic and RBA, and those 3 guys. It was a real bummer for all.
Yeah, I guess, but for me, by far the worst.
Then you have the Felix against Cressy.
That was just bad luck.
The worst draw you could possibly ask for.
Yeah.
I still maintain he had the worst draw
because
anyone in the first.
You got a guy who serving volleys, and he serves really well on the first day because it's that's when the grass is as good as he can get. And mind you, he was already a little bit worn out, but it was still really good grass. Yeah. So yeah. And
that just came down
really
to tie breaks and and 4 serves by Felix, and just a really good serve and volley plays, and just the worst kind of opponent because he gives you no rhythm, and it was just a match Felix just had to get through.
Yeah.
There was just no way around it.
And he did, unfortunately. But yeah, I feel by far the worst loss of this tournament was Berrettini.
Yeah.
Because the way he was playing on grass, won two titles back to back.
Right after hand surgery too.
After hand surgery, he was due to reach at least at
least the semis.
Yeah, at least the semis. I was gonna say quarterfinals, but still semis. It's definitely not past him. So
yeah.
From
that standpoint, I look at Kyrgios's draw, and I'm not that surprised that he got to the final.
Mm-hmm.
Because
he kind of opened up a bit.
Yeah, and Tsitsipas obviously is a favorable matchup for him. If there's any opponent in surface, he'd take that just because of Tsitsipas's
known weaknesses.
And his known weaknesses, and even that was a really close match and could have gone either way. And I was quite a circus, that match. I guess we don't need to revisit that.
No, yeah. Can make a full episode just about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See the body serve for that match, because they did a really good job like covering
Yeah.
it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was quite a circus.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can move on to the WTA now.
Yeah, let's go. What stands out to you like in the WTA this year? Like, what do you think?
Well, coming into the tournament, I have to say Ons Jabeur has been really, really consistent ever since she made the Charleston final. Like, she made the Charleston final. She then goes and wins Madrid. And then she's down in a lot of her matches in Rome. And she comes back and gets to the final on sheer confidence alone, like not even playing her best. And then she suffers a really tough first round defeat at the French Open, up a set and a break in the first round. And you're thinking that's so crushing for her. Like, she was the second favorite to win this thing after Swiatek. She was playing that well. And then, but I actually remember thinking, this is a good loss for her at the time, because grass is actually what suits her the best, with her, slices and drop shots and her variety, and just, how her game is, the unpredictability of it, the crafty.
It's like the creative shots like she can produce.
Yeah, and also she can hit
forehand as
she
well.
can also really hit big shots as well. Like, she's a good spot server, and she can like flatten out her backhand and forehand, and she really thinks out there. She has good acumen, I'd say, strategic acumen.
Yeah.
And then she goes and wins Birmingham, and she plays the mixed doubles with Serena. So you're thinking everything is shaping up for her. Her draw is good too. Like, out of her and Rybakina, she definitely had the friendlier path to get to the final. Her toughest opponent was Elise Mertens, who was very consistent herself, but someone you'd expect Ons to beat.
Yeah.
So it was, she gets to the final. She plays Tatiana Maria in the semis, who had a great tournament herself. That was a really nice story as well. She's 34 years old. She'd never been past the third round of a major. She's come back after 2 kids.
Yeah.
Very like inspiring story. And apparently she and Ons are like best friends. And she she's like neighbors with Serena and Venus, and Serena and Venus threw her a baby shower. Like, it was some good storylines. And she beat Tatiana Maria, she beat Sakkari, and she beat Ostapenko. So 2 really good wins on the way to the final. And so you're thinking, okay, that's a great tournament. Jabeur is in the final. And then on the other half, you had you had obviously the Swiatek thing, with she was on a 35 match winning streak, and she hadn't played on grass leading up to Wimbledon, and you felt like, okay, she's the favorite coming into this Wimbledon, but not by a lot. Like, you'd pick the field over her.
Yeah,
that was kind of the feeling, right? And she runs into a really crafty player in Cornet, who's been there, experienced. She's had big results before. She beat Serena in 2014 at Wimbledon. And just, I never felt like Swiatek was going to win this tournament. I watched her play.
No, yeah. I don't think anybody really had any confidence that this streak was going to continue.
Her best, her kick serve, which works so well on clay and hard courts, was just sitting up, and she was having to defend a lot on it. And her timing wasn't there. And she said it just wasn't happening for me in practice. So it didn't quite happen for her in the match itself. Against Cornet, she was up 2-love in the second set and 40-15. And the match just completely went away from her. It was probably the worst set of tennis I've ever seen her play. But it was expected, because Cornet was crushing her second serve, and eventually it was going to happen. Like, she was going to beat herself. What she did was absolutely extraordinary. 37 match wins in a row, 6 titles. Like, I've not seen domination like that on the WTA in a long, long time. So she can be extremely proud of herself, and
absolutely,
she'll absolutely be a factor. She'll absolutely, if she wins her next 2 or 3 matches on the hard courts, like, she's probably the favorite for the US Open, honestly.
Yeah.
So, like, for her, this is not a bad loss. Like, Cornet.
Yeah, especially because, like, she's a great player, but I feel like on grass, as you said, like, is not her best surface. Maybe she's gonna get to it, and I feel like she can become really good. Like,
I feel like in 4 or 5 years we could be talking about her like getting to the semis and finals, or even winning Wimbledon. Like, it's very realistic.
Yeah, maybe even shorter than that. Like, I would say like maybe 2 years. Like, you could definitely see that like coming to fruition. But like,
especially if she plays some warm ups before getting in.
But I think she was injured as well, right? Like, before, like, I think she withdrew from a tournament before going into.
She had some shoulder issues, and it was very understandable. She was on a long run, so I didn't expect her to play anything.
For sure, yeah. So like a lot of people are just picking Wimbledon for her to lose. Again, like, so like. It was just a matter of like every match was like what's going to happen now. It wasn't necessarily like before in other tournaments in which was like, is this match is in this match is Swiatek going to lose a set? So like
Yeah.
we're expecting her to like cruise through every match, but like at Wimbledon was like, is she going to win this match? It became a lot more of a doubt, like whether she could get through the later rounds, like coming like to third, fourth round of Wimbledon was going to be like, it is a little bit rougher at that point on. But yeah.
Yeah, and then I thought it was a good run by Simona Halep to get to the semis.
Yeah, totally.
She had had some good form after the French Open. She had won a lot of matches leading into Wimbledon, and then but then what kind of perplexed me was her performance in the semifinal. Because obviously, we know that she's more of a counterpuncher. She's aggressive, and her game suits the grass well. She moves really well on the grass. Like I still can't get out of my head the match that she played in 2019 in the final against Serena.
Yeah.
Like 3 on 4 stairs. I'm sorry, but 3 on 4 stairs is just ridiculous.
It's like the match of the decade.
That is like perfection. Like she's never going to top that ever in her career. So obviously that's a really high bar. But then, she had like cruised through the semis, like not dropped a set, and then she faced her first real test in Rybakina.
Which she couldn't overcome, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not even that she played very poorly from the back of the court. She just had a terrible serving day. She had 9 double faults.
Yeah.
And won just like 35% of her second serve points. So like almost more than 2 games were just like 3 points for Rybakina. And I just felt like, man, she's going to be disappointed with that. But Rybakina, on the other hand, played a superb match, very clean from the back of the court. This is someone who a lot of the people on Twitter that followed WTA really closely were picking her to do extremely well. And I got to say, she really belongs. Like she absolutely deserved to win this. She was very impressive the whole tournament.
She has like that Petra Kvitova esque vibe to her. Like she's really like tall, really like big serve.
Kvitova. That's such a good comparison, actually.
Yeah,
it's like really big serve, really big ground strokes.
Yeah,
really cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah,
like moves pretty well for her height. She's 6
exactly. Yeah, and what a
do a little bit of everything.
What a comeback from her! Like to be back on the love 40, I think was like 2-3 or 3-2.
Yeah, like she goes and loses the first set, and she's Jabeur has her flummoxed with all her variety and her drop shots. And at first I was like, oh, this is like Jabeur can just bring her to the net and she'll have a good day, because Rybakina, still not very super comfortable at the net, like chasing those drop shots down, and she wasn't returning Jabeur's serve extremely well either. So like Jabeur was having a good time, like just kind of toying with her, like for the first set. I didn't even feel like Raducanu was like that nervous, because she was still like in the match. She was still holding. You still felt like if she
it was a 6-3 set, right?
Yeah, it was a 6-3 set, and she got broken at 3-5, like serving to stay in the set. But then she played 2 awesome sets after that. Yeah. Like then suddenly all those things that Jabeur was doing, you felt like Jabeur was the one who panicked a little bit, and her shot selection went a little bit awry. She started overusing the drop shot. She started getting visibly very, very nervous on the court. Her forehand, which was such a good shot in the first set, just completely deserted her for the rest of the match. And then you had Rybakina playing really, really strong. Like Jabeur was just on her back foot, basically reacting for the entirety of the second set, because Rybakina was just overpowering her. Like there was nothing really much Jabeur could do about it.
Yeah.
But then the key game, like you pointed out, was in the third set at 3-2 love 40.
Yeah.
Where that surge that she had to win the next 5 points with like some really strong hitting, like pushing Jabeur into the corners, like hitting deep, fast shots on her forehand. And she even won a cat and mouse point that you'd expect Jabeur to win, and finished with a drop shot that Jabeur just barely hit wide.
Yeah.
And then she also hit a really nice touch volley as well. So I'm like, wait, she went from like not being able to volley and being a sitting duck at the net in the first set to like anticipating all of these drop shots and like showing really good touch and hands to the net. I was like, that mid-match adjustment, that mid-match thinking that Rybakina did under that kind of pressure was so impressive to me, because like suddenly it looked like she can play at the net and volley. And like she can like just take the racket out of Jabeur's hand, and there's not much to do. And
it's the type of player that like if you really want to make sure that you don't handle them too much. And like if they get momentum, it's just they just become extremely dangerous because the match can get away from you so quickly, which it did against Jabeur. The thing that Jabeur, I think I think Jabeur can definitely like hit better a little than she did, especially like in the third set. Like she missed a couple shots that she can normally make, but that's a very Jabeur kind of thing to be in a sense. Like she's obviously gotten so much better and is world number 2 right now for a very good reason, Wimbledon finalist. But like she has a bit of more propensity to beat herself up. Like Jabeur like has a way of like making her life a bit too difficult at times, and I think that kind of comes like when a player is just so good, has so many options that it just kind of can become a little confused. Like, if her mind gets a bit foggy, it's hard. So there's a bit of a combination of those two. But I think definitely like credit to Rybakina, who definitely like caused Jabeur to like play not as good as well, like towards at the end, because there was just not much. Like Rybakina was very nearly unplayable at the end.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like especially about the options, because she has so many shots at her disposal. Like it's very easy in that situation to just pick the wrong shot or just go with because once you commit to the shot, like you can't go back from it. So
Exactly.
it's like you just like, if I decide I'm just gonna hit like a high drop shot return here, like I have to stick to it because like that's like I've committed to that now, and now I just have to see the point through. And like yeah, like there's times where I feel like she beats herself up, but then I also feel like she reins it back in, and then she can win the set as well. Like she's 13 and she won 13 matches this year in a third set. Like she a lot of 3-setters.
Yeah.
Like from breaks down and like double breaks down and like she's very experienced in these kind of roller coaster matches. But when she didn't break back for 3-all, I just knew it was over.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it would have been like a really, really tough mental task to overcome to still get back into it and break. But she did great. I think. And
she's such a likable player too. Like
exactly,
she's just such a good person. Like I listened to her press conference after the final, and she just lost, probably this is like the toughest loss of her career. And she comes out, she's like joking with the press, like laughter and just like imbibing a lot of positivity. And just like taking all the positives over 2 weeks and just like making everyone's day in the press conference, and just like, because what she's doing is actually like very, very special. Like she's the first Arab woman to do like everything, and first first African woman, first Muslim woman. Like she's breaking a lot of barriers.
Yeah.
And her parents couldn't even come and watch her play because they didn't have
a visa.
visas. They didn't have a visa. And like, by the way, if you ever want to learn more about Jabeur, like the best person to follow is Reem Abulil on Twitter.
Yeah, totally.
She's absolutely been covering Jabeur like ever since before Jabeur was even known, like over 10 years. And like, it's so great to see a player like her doing well, because like her game is so fun to watch. Her personality, everyone just seems to love her. Like on the tour, like no one has a bad thing ever to say about her.
Yeah, it's just really funny. Like I remember last year, like when she Kontaveit was just winning stuff, and like she was like, "Oh crap,
yeah,
do you want my dress for the gala for the WTA finals?" It was really funny.
Yeah, like really well spoken too. Like she made a joke on Boris Johnson in the press conference. It was kind of funny. She's like, and then everyone in the press room was calling her the Minister of Happiness. Like that was kind of her nickname throughout this whole 2 weeks. And like you could totally see that. And I feel like she's getting close now. She can actually win a major.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
I see it in her now. Like, I wasn't sure about it like 6 months or 10 months ago, but like, I feel like she can win one. She'll win one.
I definitely think that she could do it on clay or grass. I feel like
I think she can do it on anything.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah, I think probably grass is her best chance.
Yeah,
and then clay as well, but.
Because clay, obviously, there's an obstacle of Swiatek, but like, of course, like anything can happen. So. If she remains number 2, like she obviously is going to be like on the other half of the draw. So like Swiatek could lose. Like it's not like she's going to. Well, Puli and Nadal is not that easy. It's not.
Yeah.
No wonder like nobody has won like more than 10 Grand Slams or anything. Just him. So yeah.
I feel like a lot of it depends on the draw, because best of 3, and you can just
or
like she could have run into freaking, I don't know, Carolina Muchova or Serena Williams in the first round, then you never know. Like
Yeah. Carolina
yeah,
Muchova is definitely like a player that bad luck, a lot of bad luck, but also
yeah.
so many first round matches. Like, like you just don't want to see her against that player. Like, yeah.
By the way, another event where like Bianca Andreescu loses to either the finalist or the champion.
Yeah. It's
And
such that is
second
definitely
round.
bad luck.
Yeah, second round, it was a good match though. It was like 2 tight sets.
Yeah. It
And
was
then
really good.
and then like, then
But yeah,
Rybakina.
Bianca's time is coming again. She's definitely coming back up in the rankings. She's playing well. She wants it. She feels she's her words. She's feeling really good. So I feel like the future is bright for her. I feel like she's going to be able to get back into the elite of the game again. So yeah.
She looks really happy now, like in a long time. Like I think she, before her, everything was about tennis for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then with all her injuries, I think like her perspective has changed now.
Maybe, yeah.
Like I think she's just happy. Like tennis is not everything for her. Like it used to be like all about her results, but now it's like, I think she's just happy. She has like really good people around her, and she even released a book called BB's Got Game.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, she just seems like a lot more fulfilled, and she has all the right people around her, and feels like she's getting her game back. But also like not putting too much pressure on herself. Like she knows it's gonna take time, and I think it's coming for her. Like this hardcourt season, this US Open stretch, I could see her making a really deep run.
Yeah, same. And I'm hoping for it. So yeah, we'll hope for good things in Baby's career in the future. And she's definitely gonna love to be back on hard courts. I'm pretty sure that she's excited about this because I think before with this Wimbledon, I don't think she's ever been. I don't think she's never played a match on grass before. Actually, not Wimbledon, but like the match before in Eastbourne, where he lost in the final to Carolina Garcia.
She lost to Garcia in the final.
Yeah,
that was a good run actually. She lost it was Bad Homburg, I think.
Yeah, Bad Homburg. Bad Homburg. Yeah.
Yeah. She actually led by a set and a break. She was up 7-2.
She did.
I mean, it's okay. Like it's Garcia on grass is good, I guess. Garcia also made kind of a deepish run at Wimbledon. Got to the fourth round. Beat
Raducanu. Yeah.
That's a tough draw for Raducanu, honestly.
Yeah, Raducanu is definitely on a tough year in general. So yeah,
I was impressed that she won her first round actually against Alison van Oudbank. That was I wasn't expecting her. I actually had her losing in the first round. So
although like when you watch that match, like you definitely see that Raducanu has a lot more game though. So like if it was just probably a good day for her. And she probably found her shots a lot better. So yeah, I think for me personally, I think Raducanu has to get a little bit more aggressive, like with her shots. I think she's become a little too passive, like over the years. And
I definitely noticed that
over the years, but like over the months. So yeah, I feel like her forehand is a little too loopy. I think the one thing that like in the US Open run that I remember so well is like from pretty much anywhere on the court, any height, she could just like rip that forehand and just like rip for a winner. And like I haven't seen that lately. She's definitely going for a little bit more consistency, but like she's gonna find the balance. I think like she's trying to figure it out.
A little bit of a power deficit when she played Garcia. Like her ball wasn't really hitting through the court. It was kind of just sitting up for Garcia to attack, and she was like having to defend a lot.
For sure. Yeah, and don't really want to be doing that. So yeah, especially on grass.
Yeah. I mean, who else really made a deep run? I guess Anisimova has been doing well. Got to the quarters. Had a good match against Coco Gauff in the third round.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's been quite consistent this year in the majors, hasn't she? Fourth round in the Australian, fourth round at the French, and then quarters here. Second week, all three. That's pretty good.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, you had some good runs by some people we weren't expecting, like Tatiana Maria, Buskova.
Yeah.
Players like that.
It was this section.
Opportunity for Ostapenko. Missed opportunity for Ostapenko. Missed opportunity for Sakkari. I guess
Sakkari, like on grass, she doesn't really impress me all that much. I feel like for Sakkari, definitely like clay or hard, lower hard courts. Like I think that's where she has her biggest opportunities. But yeah.
Yeah, I felt that way too.
Definitely feel like her biggest missed opportunity was.
I still feel like it's so mental with her.
Yeah, 100%,
She
totally.
had she had Tatiana Maria on the ropes in the second round. And in the second set, she had a break point for 5-1, and she ended up losing the set 7-5. Like it's
So rough.
yeah.
Yeah, I think she just kind of like thinks in her mind things just go out of control a lot more than it just kind of blows out of proportion, like
I
how bad
know.
the situation is.
I almost feel like she wants it too bad sometimes.
Yeah, I can definitely feel it though.
Yeah. Oh, but she
Never
can just
easy, never actually easy to lead in a match. It's closing out a match is harder than lots of us think.
oh yeah, you can really see it when she tightens up and you really feel for her actually in those moments because
Yeah.
she's just just trying to get over the line and
Mm-hmm.
just can't quite do it yet. But
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess that covers it. And as I said,
yeah,
before we came back to Wimbledon men's, Rybakina plays for Kazakhstan. So let's not take that victory from Kazakhstan. I mean, and I'm gonna say just because she was born and raised in Russia. But like, here's the thing: I was born and raised in Brazil, but now I live in Canada, and I am Canadian. So it's like what are you gonna do? Like, I mean, it's who she represents. If one day she ends up like renouncing her citizenship, that's so totally her problem. That's her thing. But like now she is representing Kazakhstan. She has been doing so, I think, for 4 years now. So yeah, it's Kazakhstan's. Like it's not Russia.
she had very very valid reasons I think to switch to Kazakhstan because more funding, more support,
Yeah, totally.
better support system in play for her to achieve what she wanted to do. Finances, like it's such a big part. She wasn't in the top 200 when she made that switch, and it was just like a necessary thing for her. Now she feels happy, like she's played Davis Cup in it. I mean, not Davis Cup, Fed Cup or what,
Yeah,
the King Cup for Kazakhstan, and she's like you said, 4 years. Like yeah, sure, she was born and raised there, and she still lives there. Her parents are from there, but she's Kazakhstan now. Like that's her nationality, and I just didn't like the insistence of it, like over and over. Like she got asked a bunch, and like she was asked to like denounce Putin in the press conference, and
yeah,
she handled those questions with such class, like every time.
yeah,
And she just gave like buttoned up responses and very like firm. Like I play for Kazakhstan. That's it.
yeah.
Like, and I'm not going to comment on the other stuff. So
Exactly.
yeah, it became such a big story, but I guess I could kind of see the irony, in it. Like, okay,
Yeah, it
ironic
does.
that someone born in Russia won, but
Yeah, it
being
definitely
born in
feels a little
Russia,
funny, but
being born and brought up there is very different from what you identify with. So
yeah,
if she identifies with Kazakhstan,
that's where she is now. So yeah, respect that.
that's her choice, and she's not the only one. Like I know Bublik
Yeah,
is Russian and he plays for Kazakhstan as well.
yeah.
And I'm sure it's very common in other situations. Like even
Mikhail
like Naomi
Kukushkin also
Osaka.
is a Russian, but plays for
Naomi
Kazakhstan for the longest
Osaka
time.
is like Haitian and US and Japanese. Like she always asks, she's someone who has definitely brought up the question of nationality quite a bit
Yeah.
in her game and tennis, and she chose to play for Japan, and she's happy with it.
The worst part about all of this is that like a lot of people in the US are mad that like she lives in the US but plays for Japan. It's like, who are you? It's like,
yeah, so just let her be.
You don't have a say in this.
Yeah. Let her do what she wants.
Yeah. She can live wherever she can. Like so long as she can have like the residency, like it's whatever is her problem.
Fine. Yeah.
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 But yeah, I guess that covers it, right? For this year's Wimbledon. Again, sadly, no points awarded, but the history books have been written, and Djokovic is a 21-time Grand Slam champion, and Rybakina is the first player from Kazakhstan ever to win a Grand Slam. So
yeah,
that's where we at.
Absolutely. And now we just wait and see what happens in the hardcourt season, and just go from there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we also have all these clay tournaments now, but which we're always like, why this time of the year? But
every time this year is like, what's that? What's next now? Is it's Canada, right? It's like Hamburg on clay. What?
Yeah,
a
like
500. Yeah.
And then we still have Newport, I guess, which is a one grass court tournament
where Felix and Andy Murray are playing.
Yeah, so we have some good fields, and then in the clay court tournaments, you have like Rublev and Casper Ruud. Stan Wawrinka played his match today. Team is back
and win a match. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, first match that he's won in 14 months. So it was a really big boost.
So right now it's basically the chill part of the seasons, like the decompressing after a Grand Slam. So enjoy the chill tennis.
Take a break. Now that Wimbledon is settled, then it's over, and just we'll be back with more Steve Frank episode coming up soon as well. So
great
for that.
All right, see you next time, Vansh, and thanks for listening again. Sorry for the just for the overall silence. So we will definitely be back. Owen will be back, and we will be recording a lot more episodes. In the meantime, you can follow Vansh at VanshPTK. Owen is at Tennis Nation. I'm at Rolenberg Andre, and Tennis and Bagels at Tennis and Bagels. Pay attention to the fake accounts. They exist, and unfortunately, our account which is very small, would not be able to get verified anytime soon. So we're just gonna have to be calling out the fakes for this moment on. So we'll see you next time, and I hope you enjoyed Wimbledon and you keep enjoying tennis. Bye.